kunja bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava kunja bihari. Gopi jana vallabha girivaradhari. Gopi jana vallabha girivaradhari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi jana vallabha girivaradhari. Gopi jana vallabha girivaradhari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privakacharya Sarasi Shrimad Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jam Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Bhakacharya Sarasi Samad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Sri Guru Parampara Ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Puruṣaḥ Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Go Premananda Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Everyone together, please. Om Jnana Timirandasya Ganandana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sabhidam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Ukta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Sehitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karana Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapcha Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Brindavanishwari Vrishabhana Sudadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Kya verse? Okay. Paramatma Gyan. Okay, please repeat. Upadraṣṭānumantā cha bhartā bhukta maheśvaraḥ paramātmeti cāpy ukto dehe smin puruṣaḥ upadraṣṭānumantā cha bhartā bhukta maheśvaraḥ paramātmeti cāpy ukto dehe smin puruṣaḥ upadraṣṭānumantā cha bhartā bhukta maheśvaraḥ paramātmeti cāpy ukto dehe smin puruṣaḥ upadraṣṭānumantā cha bhartā bhukta maheśvaraḥ paramātmeti cāpy ukto dehe smin puruṣaḥ. Okay, go ahead. Upadraṣṭānumantā dehe. Mataji's, Vaishnavis? No? Okay. Upadraṣṭā, overseer. Please repeat. Anumantā, permitter. Cha, also. Bhartā, master. Bhoktā, supreme enjoyer. Mahā-īśvaraḥ, the Supreme Lord. Parama-ātmā, the Supersoul. Iti, also. Cha, and. Api, indeed. Uktaḥ, is said. Dehe, in the body. Asmin, this. Puruṣaḥ, enjoyer. Paraḥ, transcendental. upadraṣṭānumantā ca bhartā bhukta maheśvaraḥ paramātmeti cāpy ukto dehe smin puruṣaḥ paraḥ. Yet in this body there is another transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the Supersoul. So in the beginning of the bhagavatam, we see that the non-dual absolute truth can be viewed in three aspects: Brahman, paramātmeti, and Bhagavan. So Paramātmā governs the material energy and the engagement of the individual soul within the material energy. Bhagavan is Lilamai. He is living in Haridam, he is living in Goloka. There he is engaging all the living entities through Srimati Radharani, Yogamaya, Swarup Shakti, Srimati Radharani, in ecstatic love eternally, as Prabhupada says here. Then he can advance towards a blissful eternal life of knowledge. So the Paramātmā has two functions. He is giving the karma phal of the material energy to the living entity who wants to be Ishvaro, controller, and bhogi, enjoyer. Under ahankara, false ego, the living entity who should be in perfect harmony with the Supreme Lord is acting independently, is bahirmukh. He is not taking the advice of the Supreme Lord, but the Supreme Lord, in his humility, is fulfilling his desire. Krishna is a desire tree in the spiritual world, and he's also a desire tree in the material world. Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. Of all supreme eternals, there is one supremely eternal, the source of all the other individual souls. Chaitanas Chaitananam. They are conscious individual souls, but the Supreme Lord is supremely conscious. Eko yoda dadati kaman. And that supreme eternal conscious being is fulfilling the desires of all living entities. So if you want to be an atheist and argue against the Supreme Lord in this material world, he will give you so many arguments. Of course, they are false. He will give you so many asuram bhavam ashrita. There's 4 people in the material world that don't surrender. They're duskritina, naradama. Naradama is a low-class person. He's a liar, cheat, intoxicant. He is lower than animal, they say. Then there is mudha, who just believes, I'll work very hard and I'll achieve my goals in that way. I've got a strong back and I'll work hard. Then there is mahā-īśvaraḥ. That kind of person also doesn't surrender. He thinks we've got the Hadron Collider in Switzerland, right? It's 17 miles, and we will get the protons and the electrons and we'll whiz them around at the speed of light, and then they'll collide and we'll learn how the universe was created. Well, they've been doing it for a long time and they don't know anything yet. But some people are saying it's a very dangerous thing. Mahā-īśvaraḥ. The whole of the scientific world is just 3 words. There was nothing, then there was bang, and then there was everything. Right? Whether it's physics, chemistry, biology, bang came from nothing, and the bang created everything. And I'm a big scientist, so I will measure everything, and I will find every evidence in the everything that I will interpret that evidence in my Hadron collider, in my test tube, under my telescope, over my microscope, and I'd better interpret it, or else I'll lose my job as a professor. I'd better go with the flow, with the narrative. I better say that, yes, look, it's all proof that there was nothing, then there was a bang, and there was everything. So that's my apritagyan. And it's based on, I'd better keep my job. Because the theistic people, they look at the everything and they say, there's design. There's design in the electron. There's design in the DNA. There's design in the progress of the seasons. There's design everywhere I look. So there must be designer. But asurim bhavam asrita, that's number 4. He's taken shelter of demoniac mentality. There is no God. So he's like somebody that goes into an art gallery with his friend, and his friend says, look at a beautiful painting. And then he says, no, there's no painter. There's a painting, but there's no painter. So then they go to the restaurant, and one says, oh, what a delicious sandwich. What a wonderful cook. And his friend says, no cook. So then they go in the car park, they get in the car, and his friend says, what a nice car. Who made it? No manufacturer. It was by chance. So then they go down on the beach, and they look at the sun and the sky and the stars and whatever, and one says, wow, what a creation. And the other one says, creation? It's all by chance. There's no creator. So this is asuram bhavam. Atheism is based on an attitude problem. Because actually, wherever you look in the world, you will find evidence of a supreme designer. And if you don't recognize that, then it's not very scientific. And don't worry, you get a better job in the spiritual world. So anyway, these are the moods in the material world. And even though the material energy is kicking and kicking the living entity doesn't want to say anything other than, I am the Supreme. And I'm going to make it where everyone else didn't. He goes to the cemetery, says, everyone has died, not me. Because we're going to upload my brain into a computer. And then I'll live eternally in a computer. They actually say things like this. Anyway, so this is the material world. So Krishna gives all the intelligence, even for the atheistic people. But his other function as Paramātmā is that he sees the living entity try to enjoy the material world and the material body, and it's compared, the body is like a tree. And the Paramātmā and the individual soul are living in the tree of the body, and the individual soul is trying to enjoy the fruit of the tree through his different activities. And the Paramātmā is guiding him to the fruit, but he's also trying to give a hint. It's called conscience in the heart. That's why the criminals, they go on their thieving at night and they think, nobody will catch me. But in their heart they think, maybe they will. This is conscience. This is the direction of Supersoul, even in the sinful person. But they push past that and they perform their sinful activities, like Prabhupada says. But to get out of the material energy, instead of pushing past our conscience, which is the Supersoul, we should listen to the other bird in the tree. And he will say, you will never be happy by trying to enjoy the material energy, because you are not an enjoyer. At the beginning of this chapter, Arjuna asks 6 questions. He says, what is puruṣaḥ? What is prakriti? What is the field, meaning the body? And who is the knower of the field, meaning the individual soul? And Krishna explains, I am also the knower. And then he says, what is knowledge and what is the knowable? So in this context, the knowable is Krishna at all times, and the process of knowing Krishna, knowing Paramātmā, is sadhana bhakti. Shravanam kirtanam Vishnu smaranam padasevanam achanam vandanam dasyam sakyam atma nivedanam. Now if you remember, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada said that Krishna is always trying to educate the individual soul. He's not saying continue in the material world forever. I will facilitate that according to your karma phal. Yes, twindra gopamata vendra mahosva karma bandhana rupam falambhajinam atanoti karmadi nirdahidi kinchucha bhakti bhajam govindamadi puruṣaḥ tamaham bhajami. That I, as Paramātmā, as Supreme Lord, I will give you your karma phal, and you may become Indra, or you may become the germ in the stool. But those that perform bhakti, I will burn up all their residual karma, their aparabdha karma. This is parabdha karma. It is manifest karma. It is the result of my activities under the supervision of Paramātmā, Supreme Lord, at this moment, parabdha. But there is also aparabdha. That means karma phal, fruit of work, that is lying at seed. And that may be just like a young boy. His parabdha karma is to be a young boy. But then his aparabdha karma may take him to being a chai shop wala. Or he may become a scientist. Or he may become a bhoktā. What makes the difference? Dhriti. In the earlier section, when Krishna explains what is the field, he says there is the 20 material elements, the 5 gross elements, the 5 sense objects, the 5 knowledge acquiring senses, and the 5 working senses. There is the mind, and there is the chaitana, consciousness. And the consciousness is ichcha dvesha. I like this, I don't like that. Hatred and repulsion. He's deciding good or bad. And he's interpreting, it's there earlier, sukheshu, dukheshu. He's trying to decrease the dukh and increase the sukh. He's trying to go to the sukh and get rid of the dukh. I've got a toothache, I go to the dentist. I've got some money, I'll go and get drunk. He's trying to enjoy what he thinks and avoid what he hates. And then in the middle of that is sankalpa. Krishna says, dhriti, determination. what he is doing with his consciousness. Huh? Akalp, sankalp, sankalp. What will I do? So that is the causative factor of the living entity, whether he stays in the material world and keeps going through cycle of birth and death. Krishna will fulfill that. It is also the causative factor if the living entity will attain Golok Vrindavan, if he will attain Swarup Siddhi, if he will attain his spiritual nature, his spiritual form, his relationship with the Supreme Lord that is lying within the soul, in the same way that a tree is lying within the seed. Every seed, they have a design inside. One becomes a banyan tree, one makes a tomato tree, one makes a Surya Mukh. Every soul has a particular relationship with Krishna. So the aim of human life is to grow that relationship through Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Parasevanam. But you can do that for 1,000,000 lifetimes. But do you have dhriti? Do you have determination? Do you have desire? Ye prasade pure sarva asha. The Guru fulfills the desire. What is Lord Chaitanya saying in the Shiksastikam? I Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram. I'm your, O son of Nanda Maharaj, I'm your Kinkaram. I'm your son. I'm your servant. Please pick me up and place me at an atom of dust on your lotus feet. So as we say nearly every class, that is the sublime nature of bhakti. That the devotee, he relies on the intervention of the Supreme Lord to take him back to Godhead. His element is desire, dhriti, sankalp. There's one sloka here. Prabhude jnana bhaktibhyam atmani ananda chinmayi udet utama bhaktiya bhagavat prema lakshana. It's at the end of the glorification of Krishna's form. Yes. That is number 58. When the pure spiritual experience is excited, awoken, by means of cognition and service bhakti, super excellent unalloyed devotion characterized by love for Godhead is awakened towards Krishna, the beloved of all souls. Right? There's 5 slokas here that tell everything about bhakti. Now the next sloka is, yes, okay, I want to awaken my devotion, but then everything you need to know about how to attain Krishna is told here in one sloka by Lord Brahma. What is that sloka? Pramanas tad sadacharas tadabhyasa nirantaram bodhyan mahā-ātmānam bhaktim apiyutaman labet. So this is Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is the intelligence of the universe. He is the head of our sampradaya. What does he say? Yes, he says in that first sloka of the 5, you can awaken bhakti by hearing and chanting. But then he says, the highest devotion, that means Swarup Siddhi, that means prem. You'll have to wait. The highest devotion is attained how? This is what Lord Brahma is going to say. This is not your mother, your father, your grandfather, or somebody you met by the bank of the Jamuna who was smoking a bidi, had a long beard. This is Lord Brahma, head of the Brahma-Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, after he had realized Krishna and his relationship with Krishna. So what does he say? The highest devotion is attained by slow degrees, step by step, by the method of constant endeavor for self-realization with the help of three things: scriptural evidence, theistic conduct, and perseverance in practice. Scriptural evidence, that means Vedas, Acharyas, bona fide Guru. We should hear from them. That is the special quality of bhakti. If you hear from the pure devotee, it will awaken your love of God. Scriptural evidence, pramana. There is pramana and prameya. Prameya is that which is to be proved. And pramana means evidence. So, Veda, Acharya, and bona fide Guru, they give pramana. Theistic conduct. We talked about that last week. Theistic conduct means to see Krishna everywhere, and especially within every living entity, and to realize Krishna's presence in every living entity. Krishna says in the Uddhava Gita is the greatest form of realizing him. So theistic conduct means that, giving respect to everything as the energy of Vasudeva. I'll read it again. We had a big discussion last week on this. Verse number 19, chapter 29, 11th canto. Indeed, I consider, this is Krishna, who's that? Indeed, I consider this process, using one's mind, words, and bodily functions for realizing me within all living beings, to be the best possible method of spiritual enlightenment. Krishna doesn't say, perform my bhajan. Yes, you can do that. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam. But you have to also understand that Krishna is in everyone's heart. He's in the heart of the monkey who's stealing your glasses at Keshi. He's in the heart of the tom-tom walla who is overcharging you. He's in the heart of the sadhu. He's in the heart of every living entity as Paramātmā and as jiva, because jiva angsa, mama angsa. So there is no question of just doing the bhajan in the temple and then disregarding other living entity. That is not theistic conduct. Theistic conduct means to see Krishna everywhere as the living entity. And why is this so potent? Because if we go back to the beginning of this chapter, Krishna asked, who is puruṣaḥ? Arjuna asked Krishna, who is puruṣaḥ and who is prakriti? Prakriti is three. There is the chit shakti, which composes the spiritual world. There is the achit shakti, and then there is the jiva shakti. That is the individual living entities. So all the living entities in the material world, they are not puruṣaḥ, they are shakti, they are prakriti. Their basic mistake is that they are trying to be puruṣaḥ of the material energy. They're trying to be the enjoyer of this world through dhanam, through being wealthy, through having high social status, how having sex life and a dynasty and a big family that will be remembered throughout time. They're trying to enjoy in that way. But they're not enjoyers. That is the mistake. Jiva Shakti. Krishna expands on his left side as Shakti, Swarup Shakti, Srimati Radharani. On his right side, he expands as puruṣaḥ, Baladev. And Baladev expands as the Chatuvyuha, all the incarnations, empowered incarnations, as Paramātmā. But Srimati Radharani expands as Shakti. She produces the spiritual energy. She produces the governance of the material energy as Durga Devi, the wife of Lord Shiva, the time factor, the lingam and the yoni, the puruṣaḥ aspect, Lord Shiva, and the prakriti aspect. But she is also emanating for the service of Krishna, and it is explained in the earlier part of Brahma Samhita that the living entities are emanated from Srimati Radharani. Rani means queen. She is the mother of the living entities. Jiva Shakti, not Jiva Puruṣaḥ. Everything on the left side produced by Srimati Radharani is to be enjoyed by Krishna. But don't think that Krishna's enjoyment is like the enjoyment of the selfish people in the material world. Krishna enjoys by giving bliss to the children of Radharani, the expansions of Srimati Radharani. Now, Bhakti Devi, this is highly esoteric, but you must understand it. Srimati Radharani is the queen of devotion. She is Bhakti Devi. Now the living entities in the period of sadhana are under her younger sister, Ananga Manjari, who is the Swarup Shakti of Baladev. Baladev is Guru Shakti, is Ananga Manjari. Krishna, Swarup Shakti, is Radharani. Now, under the shelter of Guru, the living entities are developed by Ananga Manjari, Nityananda and Jahnavi. Nityananda is Baladev and Jahnavi is Swarup Shakti, Ananga Manjari. So when the living entities are developed under the governance of Guru Shakti, they are given to Srimati Radharani, and you can read this in the Ananga Manjari Samputika. And then Srimati Radharani engages them in the service in the spiritual world, in Madhurya Bhav, in Vatsalya Bhav, in Dasya Bhav, in Sakya Bhav, all Sambandha Tattva, Sambandha Ras, feeling of relationship. She is the queen. So if we want to please Srimati Radharani, Swarup Shakti, we should please her children. So when Krishna says, he doesn't say it directly here, but through the Sanskrit, you can, the living entity within every living being, even in this material world, from Brahma down to the Indra Gopa, they are the expansion of Swarup Shakti, Jiva Shakti, Srimati Radharani. So if you are merciful to the Jiva, and that means starts with giving respect to the Jiva as being part and parcel of the Supreme Lord in his Leela, if you are merciful to the living entities, you will catch the heart of Srimati Radharani, because you are being merciful to her expansions, her children. But if you disregard the living entities in this material world, and you just think that they are inconsequential, then you remain Kanishtadikari. You will never become Nishta. You will never become purified of Matsarya. If you give respect to every living entity, then Matsarya, the disease in the material world, will be gone. Envy will be gone. It will be replaced by an attitude of kripa. And that kripa is the nature of the Supreme Lord. Paramātmā, yes, he's fulfilling the living entity in the material world, but he's also trying to bring the living entity back. He's trying to give conscience. He's trying to give warning. He's trying to give guidance. He's empowering the sadhus. He's empowering the Vaishnavas, the acharyas, to say to the living entities, you're not puruṣaḥ of this material energy. You are prakriti. You are meant to be fulfilled at the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. You are the children, you are the expansion of Radharani. Now she has deputed an Angamanjari and Baladev, Guru and Guru Shakti, to guide you. She wants you to come back. So if you act for the goodness of all living entities, the kindness, if you start by giving respect and you try to distribute prasad and harinam to all the living entities, then Srimati Radharani, you are in line with her heart. Your heart will be enlivened with the kripa shakti. Krishna is puruṣaḥ. Where is he giving the kripa? He's giving the kripa through an Angamanjari, Swarup Shakti Baladev, and he's giving the kripa through Radharani. So the Vaishnav who gives kripa becomes in line with the heart of Srimati Radharani. And that we see in all acharyas. We see in the work of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, writing books like The Ganga Flows Water. We see that in Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, how he performed great austerities and traveled all over India, telling people about Lord Chaitanya. Who is Lord Chaitanya? He is opening the storehouse of prema and saying, take this fruit. There's more than I can take. You take. And then there is Srila Prabhupada, who at an advanced age, he went all over the world saying, just take the mercy of Srimati Radharani through Lord Chaitanya. Start by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. But the important point is, do it with Siddhanta. Yes, we give respect to everyone naturally, but we should give respect to everyone knowing that they are all the children of the Supreme Lord and the children of the most beloved of the Supreme Lord, Srimati Radharani. If we do it with that siddhanta and we act for the benefit of all living entities, then Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda will take us into the kirtan party. And in that kirtan party, we'll sing Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu Me. Huh? Nila Chaura Chandra, oh my Prabhu Jagannath. Huh? We will get bhava for the love of Krishna, for the Lord of Lord Jagannath, through giving kripa to the children that have fallen down in this material world. And the third one, perseverance in practice. So that is theistic conduct. We practice ourselves. Pramana, we learn the Shastra, we learn Siddhanta, and then we try to become sadhu. We try to be respectful and merciful to all living entity, and then perseverance in practice. Sankalp, determination. You fall off the bicycle, you get back on. We were all children. We fell off the bicycle, then we got back on. So it is that dhriti, that determination, that takes us away from the material energy, false puruṣaḥ, and returns us as prakriti to the divine lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you all very much. Any question? One question.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, you said that Radharani is wanting us back to spiritual world. And you also hear that Srila Prabhupada says that come back to Godhead.
Yes.
So does this mean that we were in spiritual world and
Excuse me?
So does this mean that we were in spiritual world once upon a time?
With the emanation from the spiritual platform. But there is discussion about our status before we enter the material energy. If you want to know the details, read chapter 15 of Jaiva Dharma by Bhakti Vinod Thakur. We are Tatastha Shakti. That means we are Tata, on the line. We can go to spiritual energy and live there eternally, or we can fall into the material energy. If you read verse number 11, Sahasrashu, Mahavishnu is emanating spirit souls, and they are the Tatastha Shakti. They can choose. You can read about it, chapter 15, Jaiva Dharma. I don't want to, because many people have apasiddhanta on that point. But we are certainly from the spiritual platform. But those that have attained Swarup Shakti, Swarup Siddhi, they never come to the material world. Okay, thank you all very much. Srimati Radharani, Sri Krishna, Ananga Manjari, Sri Baladev, Gaurnitai, Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai.